Okay, so we just got this blockbuster piece of news talking about mortgage delinquencies in Ontario and how they're rising to like crisis levels and all this stuff. So I'm going to go over this today. I'm going to contrast it with some other delinquency rates. And yeah, let's hop into it. So this is huge right now. This is all over Twitter. People have done videos on it, blah, blah, blah. Big piece of news, okay? Record rise in Ontario mortgage delinquencies stem from pandemic era interest rates, says Equifax. So they say, while many Canadians are having financial troubles, nowhere are they more acute than in Ontario. The company which monitors consumer credit says Ontario's mortgage delinquency rate rose from 0.24% in the first 3 months of 2025, which is a massive 71.5% increase from that same time period in 2024. So 0.24%. Now, when you're talking about a 71.5% increase, but the number that it's being increased to is 0.24, that's like me having 3 apples and then you giving me 2, and then me saying, well, I have a 66.67% increase in apples, right? The number of delinquencies that we're coming off of is so low that when you go from 0.13 to 0.24, or whatever it was, it's like a 71% increase. But the overall amount of delinquencies, like if you were to contrast this with the States, right? The States right now is at 1.78. And that's like seven times higher than Ontario's mortgage delinquency rate right now. And their delinquency rate isn't even like going up at the moment. I mean, in 2008, it was at 11.49. Like, what increase is that? That's like a 100,000% increase in delinquency rates to get to where we were in the States in 2010. Now, I don't know why the US just generally seems to have a higher delinquency rate than us. Not 100% sure why, but the point I'm making is that this isn't crisis levels, but what is worrisome is the rate of growth in the delinquency rate, right? So if this continues, then that would start to become scary. And it probably will continue, because I think to be considered delinquent, you have to be in arrears for 3 months or something like that. So there's probably a whole bunch of other people that are already in arrears or delinquent on their mortgages. It's just not being added to this statistic yet. So anyways, this lady says, we had ultra low interest rates, which led to a very hot housing market. And specifically, we saw a lot of folks going out again, in many cases purchasing properties and taking on a mortgage. Now it's renewal time and interest rates are a lot higher. So I don't actually think interest rates are the main reason why delinquencies are rising. I think it has more to do with incomes. If you're a small business owner, more than likely your income has dropped. Because think about it like this, right? Everybody was stress tested at 5.25% when they got this mortgage. Now the rate is, 4.5%. Theoretically, they can afford another 0.75% on that mortgage payment. What's changed is likely their income, and then obviously the cost of living and everything around the mortgage has gone up. So this wouldn't be number one on the list for what's causing this, in my opinion. Those rates led to payment shock, which is the accompanying bump in mortgage rates that homeowners and mortgages then have to deal with. Pair that along with higher cost of living that Canadians have been dealing with. So they say higher cost of living here. Canadians have been dealing with over the past couple of years, and it adds up to see mortgage delinquencies rise above pre-pandemic levels. While Ontarians were having trouble paying off housing debt, they were also more likely in the first quarter to default on other types of loans as well. I think auto loans has been going up quite a bit. The firm said that non-mortgage delinquencies had risen 24% over the first quarter of 2024. Higher rates of unemployment coupled with inflation over the past couple of years are contributing factors in these issues Canadians are facing. It is more expensive to live here, which means you're going to have to make a lot more money from an affordability perspective, which is very hard to do. It's very difficult to make more money now than it was in 2024. 2024, it was more difficult to make more money now than it was in 2023, right? So it's going to be harder to pay off your debt levels. With all that uncertainty, Equifax said that Canadians are racking up credit card debt at a lower rate, spending on average $107 less per month, with Ontario being one of the leaders in that area. So the consumer's pulling back. They're spending less money. They're not going to restaurants. They're not drinking as much beer. They're not, frivolously spending money on YSL bags and Louis Vuitton bags and Rolexes. However, at the same time, Canadians were also making 52.9% less payments on their credit cards. So where's that money going? They're saving $107. It's not making it to the credit card payment. Might be going to the mortgage. Now we have a table here and a chart of, this is from February 28th, 2025. So here's the mortgages in arrears which is not making your payment for 90 days and over, which I think is the same thing as delinquencies. And as you can see, Canada has the lowest delinquency rate. That's the purple line. United Kingdom is basically 3 times higher at 0.74%. And then you have the US way higher than both of ours, right? But we're very similar to the UK and kind of the way we operate here, right? Now, as of February 28, 2025, these are the percentage of mortgages in arrears for each province, right? So you have Atlantic Canada at 0.28, Quebec at 0.19, Ontario at 0.2, Manitoba at 0.34, Saskatchewan at 0.58. So Ontario is like one of the lowest ones on this list. And then you have Alberta at 0.3 and BC actually the lowest, even though it is the most expensive at 0.19. Go figure. Why is that? Don't know. Easier to have a job. Economy's more diverse here. A lot of homes here are owned cash. Probably some of the variables that make up why that happens. Now, this is funny, right? Because look at the headlines. Ontario's record-setting mortgage delinquencies anonymously concerning, right? I'm not concerned about the percent, but I am concerned about where it's going, right? And maybe that's what they mean. But I don't think this headline is justified yet, is what I'm saying, right? Canadians missing more payments as one default reaches crisis level era, right? Let's go back and look at this chart, right? So the closest thing Canada's had to a crisis in recent history, which wasn't a crisis here at all, was 2008, right? And you can see that the delinquency rate back then was like 0.5. So we're still halfway to that. And even 2008, I mean, home prices came down. They bottomed within like 18 months and then it was off to the races again. So, but if you go all the way back here to like the 90s, you know, I guess, yeah, our crisis rate for delinquencies for some reason seems to be like well under 1%, right? So I don't know why. I don't know how that makes sense because we had a pretty bad recession in the 90s and apparently delinquencies were only like, they didn't even get above 1%. So I don't know. Somebody a lot smarter than me can correct me in the comments as to why the US consistently has way higher delinquency rates than us and why we seem to be at crisis levels below 1%. No idea. Or, you know, what they're calling crisis levels, right? But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe. If you want to chat with me about buying or selling in the Fraser Valley, link down in the description. I am that Agent Kelly. I'm making moves to move you. Peace.